Hey everyone, it's been a while since we uploaded our last video. So in this video we're going to talk about our finances, our budget for the past 5 months when we were traveling in Europe in a van. And ever since day one, ever since we left the States, from day one when we landed in London, we kept track of all our spendings on this app we downloaded on our phones called Spendy. And what's nice about it is we could create different categories on it, and change different currencies when we're in different countries. So from January 18th until May 29th,
yes,
we kept track every day of what we spent. And then after the trip is over, Vanessa put all those numbers into a nice looking Excel spreadsheet and some graphs, and I'll pop it up on somewhere on the screen for you to look at. And Vanessa will talk about our general spending.
All right, so the first graph is pretty much just the biggest general overview, and so you can kind of see here it's all broken up down into our whole spending and how it's been partitioned into the categories that we've come up with. So overall, people will always ask us, how much do you spend in general on your trip?
Yeah.
And so the easiest answer is we spent about $20,000 US, and that's for 5 months for the two of us. So if you break that up into per day, it ends up being around $150 for the two of us per day, so about $75 each. Now, this isn't the cheapest price, I guess you could say. I mean, we've seen books and people talking about spending $10 a day or $20 a day or $50 a day, but our purpose wasn't really to be as cheap as possible. We just wanted it to be, for us to be able to do the things that we wanted to do, and spend the money where we felt like
it was worth it.
Yeah, where it was worth to be spent on. Oftentimes we don't feel like accommodations are the thing that's the best thing to spend money on. Obviously, that's why we live in a van. Generally, that just shows you that it actually doesn't cost that much to spend a good 5 months in Europe, and Europe is pretty expensive. So
I mean, it's still a lot of money, but
yeah, for sure.
For us, it was comfortable. We could have spent a lot less, but we didn't feel the need to.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But for you, you could definitely spend way less
Yeah.
and travel longer and see everything in Europe if you want.
Yeah.
It's definitely doable.
It's just kind of you have to look at where you want to put your money. So we're just going to go through some of the categories now, just to kind of break down, how much things were and why it may or may not apply to you in the same kind of way. So in the biggest category, obviously, it's our camper van cost. And you can see in the big graph that overall our net cost was about $4,300. And that includes having bought the van and then sold the van. So we bought it for about $8,000, sold it for $6,800 or so.
$11,000 US.
Oh,
and then we sold it for about around $9,000
US.
$9,600 US.
Right. So we lost a bit there, but I mean, for living in it for 5 months, it was totally worth it. And then there were a few other extra costs for things that we bought, say to deck out the inside of the van. When we moved in, there was a lot of things that weren't there. For example, like cooking equipment and things like that. So
make it into
our own
little
home. Yeah. So there was those costs, and then we also spent a little bit on a few oil changes and our issue with it having broken down in France, and the tow truck and things like that. So there was just a few little things there, but overall it wasn't too much in terms of the camper van itself. The second biggest category we have here, you can see, is the accommodation category. We spend about $2,600 on that overall. And you might think, well, you live in a van, what do you need to spend money on for accommodations? So really, more than half of that price was spent on the last 10 days in London. And it's because it's London, and it was an Airbnb, and Phil's mom was also visiting us at the time, so we wanted to have something where we could rent the whole unit on our own. And we also needed a base out of where we could sell our van. So we needed somewhere we could bring all our stuff in, empty the van out, and show it to potential buyers, right?
So we sold the van on the 4th day we got back to London. So we had like an additional week left in London. So it was kind of nice because we're friends visiting as well. So we all kind of stayed together and a lot of fun.
Yeah. So that accommodation price was heavily affected by that 10 days in London.
Yeah.
But other than that, we also spent a handful of days at Airbnbs in places that we couldn't necessarily drive to.
Yeah.
Cinque Terre, Paris.
In Croatia.
In Croatia, yeah. So there are a couple places where we did spend a little bit on accommodations, as well as campsites once in a while when we felt, we really needed to take a shower and we couldn't find somewhere, or we just wanted a place to be able to clean up the van and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
we spent, whenever we, like in Paris, we didn't feel like driving into the city and park. So we would park like 30 minutes outside the city. We left the car there in a public garage, and then we took the train in and we just rented an Airbnb for one night.
Yeah.
We didn't feel it was worth it to drive into the city and just try. We heard terrible things driving in Paris, so we didn't bother with it. And in Croatia we rented an Airbnb for a week to go climbing with a friend. So so it's just little things, but it wasn't overall. It wasn't too expensive.
Yeah, other than the London part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next two kind of big categories were food and drink, as well as transportation. So we'll talk about that.
Food and drinks. You look at it. We spent $2,300 going out to eat. It's definitely a lot of money, but we weren't trying to save money on that either. We wanted to experience the local cuisines and different types of food. And even though we cooked a lot still, we didn't feel the need to save money on going out to eat. We feel like it was worth it, and we weren't going out fine dining or anything. It was just looking for restaurants that people say it's worth going. Like in Italy, there was a pizza place that got Michelin stars, but it wasn't too expensive. It was outside of Naples, and people were saying the pizzas there were really good.
I mean, you can see we have a separate category for groceries as well. So, I mean, we did cook. Probably it was like a 60-40 split, like cooked 60% and went out to eat 40% of the time. So we weren't like trying to do one more than the other. It was kind of a good even mix. If we were at a campsite and it was really convenient to cook, we'd cook more. But if we were out and about all day in the city, we'd just go out to eat. So
And Vanessa and I don't drink alcohol, so we saved a lot of money there. I drank a lot of Coca-Colas there because they were really good compared to the States. They use different sugars, so but yeah, that's it. And then the next big thing was what? Transportation.
Yeah.
Transportation, it was that the $2,300. It was including flights to Hong Kong and Norway round trip. So that took quite a bit of our budget. And then the rest, it was mostly taking public buses, trains. What else? Did we take any ferries? No, right?
Yeah. They included the ferries that we took from, say, Italy to Greece.
Oh, right.
And then the ferry that we took to go to Santorini from Athens.
Right.
So there was a couple of those that we included in transportation costs. So that's why there is, a pretty big margin for that. And that's outside of how much we spent on gas, which is the next kind of big chunk of our money. So that was about $2,000 that we spent. And it really kind of varied every month. It wasn't that consistent because it really depended on which countries we were in and how much driving we were doing there. So in the first, not in January, but in February, we spent the most, like about $700, $800 there. And it was kind of because we were doing a big round Spain, like down to France and then around Spain, and we were trying to, keep on schedule because we really had to get over to the Balkans within a certain time frame just for the whole visa thing. So it was quite a bit of driving, and we also had some friends that were traveling in that same kind of route on the rail pass, so we decided to kind of follow them along the way, and then so we drove a lot that month. Whereas the month that we spent in the Balkans, we really didn't spend that much on gas because first of all, it wasn't as expensive, but it was also because we stayed put in Croatia for, almost 2 weeks, I think. Didn't go too far in Croatia, so we saved a bit there too.
Yeah, and we found out, Spain was what the cheapest in petrol. It was like $1. It was when we were there. It was $1.
110,
110 in Spain, and then
that's euros per liter.
Yeah, and then the most expensive ever was just outside of Venice, going into Slovenia.
Yeah.
It was like 1.8 something per liter.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. But yeah, overall it was average around like 1.1 to 1.3, around there in that range per liter.
Yeah. Germany and the Netherlands were also a bit more expensive, like 1.4, 1.5, kind of thing like that. It was a little bit harder to figure out how much we were paying in the Balkan countries because some of the stations they had it in euros per liter, but you're paying lek per liter, and so it got really confusing. Like, they would just give us a price and we would pay it, and we had no idea, like, how much does it put in? How much are we paying? Like, whatever, it's fine. Yeah. So, yeah, that was pretty good. Gas wasn't too bad, but that's definitely an acceptable amount. Mm-hmm. So, the next kind of biggest no, I'm not gonna go there. So some of the other things that we also had to take note of in terms of like the car was tolls and parking.
Yeah, parking. It was whenever we didn't feel like going to the city, we'd park, outside the city, or when we do drive in the city, a lot of times we have to pay for meters. And then there are times where when we go to Santorini in Greece, we left our car at a gated private garage for 4 days. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't expensive, but we thought it was it was worth the money to pay.
It was expensive.
It was expensive. It was like $20 a day.
Yeah, maybe something like that, but
$20 a day. It was pretty normal, I guess. But
for the peace of mind, like even if you're paying a little bit more for a secure parking location, it's kind of better, especially in a place like Athens near a port where there's a lot of people and a lot of things going on. So yeah,
and that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
When we went back to London, we had to pay for a parking space.
Yeah.
So I rented a parking space from this owner who was renting his space out for, I forgot how much.
It was 100 and something, 20, 30, or 40 per month.
Yeah.
So he rented it for the entire month. Because at the end of the trip, we weren't exactly sure how long it would take us to sell the van, and we only had the Airbnb for 10 days. So say we couldn't sell it within 10 days, Phil had decided that, regardless, he could just keep the van in that parking spot for up to a month and just, like, live in the van in that parking spot if need be. I mean, thankfully, we sold it in 4 days, so it really wasn't an issue, but we had that option if we needed to.
And it was a lot cheaper than just paying for meters or even paying for parking garage in London.
Yeah. There weren't that many garages near us either, where we were.
No.
And you couldn't park on the street because you'd have to move it constantly because of their timing
and street parking is really strict over there. So,
Mm-hmm.
And then there's tolls. In the beginning of the trip, we're trying to save on tolls. We're driving on a lot of local roads through France, and that was really, really nice. Get to see different villages and stuff. And then once we get to Italy, we realized the roads were really, really bad. A lot of potholes. So we just decided to pay for just get on the motorway and pay for tolls.
Yeah. And not only were the roads bad actually when you're off of the paid roads, but also there was so many roundabouts. Like, they want to keep people like going slow through the towns, so they have lots of roundabouts, and it always just be this big, and everything in the back would just get thrown around and everything, and Phil got so annoyed at having to go around roundabouts that he was like, forget it!
And braking and stopping every like 800 meters. So that got annoying.
Yeah.
And through the Balkans, in Albania, the roads are just horrendous. So, but they didn't have tolls there, so it was nice.
Yeah.
Either way, they didn't really have any motorways anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's explanations for that. We kind of talked about that in the other videos.
But overall, towards the last 2 months, we just said, screw it, we'll pay for tolls. So.
Well, some countries like Austria and Slovenia required you to pay for a sticker, like for the highway use. So
that was like 30 euros or something for a week.
It depended on how long you wanted to stay and also what size your car it was. So we just paid those, and it was, you know, whatever.
Yeah, so it wasn't too bad. And then another thing is shopping. We really didn't buy anything. Shopping was so high just because I decided to buy a brand new iPhone.
This guy.
and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, that was already, you know how much a new iPhone is, so it's because he smashed his other one. He dropped it on the ground and the screen went. Yeah. So that shopping price also is a skewed number. It shouldn't be that high. Yeah. Some of the other things, I mean, we talked about groceries already. That was kind of, you know, really depended on which country we're in. The Balkans was super, super cheap for groceries, but it was also super, super cheap to go out to eat. So it wasn't like, you know, we did a little bit of both, but it was really cool, however, to kind of go and see how much groceries were and what kind of different groceries, local groceries there were. And like I got really excited because, you know, when I was in Spain, I'm thinking, oh, I want to get Spanish spices, and when we were in Germany, I went and got mustard. Like, it was kind of fun for me because I really do enjoy cooking and stuff like that. So and
then there's entertainment, like going to historic sites, and we went to a couple museums.
Went to watch a couple movies.
A couple movies.
Yeah.
And then in London, when we went back to London in May, we went a little crazy on Broadway shows. We went to like one every day or something.
Almost one every day, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was totally worth it because, you know, having lived in San Francisco
it's a lot cheaper than in the States.
It's so much cheaper. You know, we got to see Hamilton, which goes for, I don't know, like $800, $1,000 a seat in San Francisco, and like in London there's ticket caps, so you can't sell it for more than a certain amount. So, you know, we were lucky enough to get tickets there, and then otherwise in terms of entertainment, like, we didn't spend too much on these things because, like, we really enjoy going outside and doing things like climbing and hiking. It's mostly free. And also with the museums, Phil's not a huge museum person. And, you know, once you go to some of these places, they all kind of start being the same sort of things,
like,
you know.
castles and...
and cathedrals, and like, you know, we were in Rome already, so seeing Roman ruins outside of Rome got a little bit more repetitive, and so yeah, we probably could have spent more on entertainment, but we were quite happy with what we did, and we kind of enjoyed the outdoors more anyway.
And then there's Hobbies. I don't know what that is, actually.
That was like climbing and things like that. And those kind of things that required a little bit of money sometimes.
Paying entrance fee to national parks and
stuff.
Yeah,
exactly.
Laundry is pretty self-explanatory. We did laundry like once every 2 weeks. Healthcare, Vanessa had to go to a clinic twice because of a cough, and then she got like a tick bite. In Slovenia or wherever.
No, in Luxembourg.
Luxembourg.
I'm actually not really sure when it happened.
But we went to a clinic a couple times, so that cost like a couple $100.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I mean, $20,000 is still a lot of money, and could have been way cheaper, but we felt that was
it was
that
pretty
was good
comfortable
for our budget.
Yeah, we weren't trying to be super cheap, but we also weren't splurging like crazy. We were quite happy with, you know, how much we were spending. We obviously wish we could have spent longer in a lot of places, and then we probably would have spent more money, but we kind of had this kind of time frame we had to follow.
Yes.
But I also wanted to just mention that I felt like, you know, we spent $20,000 on this trip, and I'm pretty sure that that's about how much we saved in terms of our rent living in a van instead of our, you know, apartment or house, room, whatever, in California. So kind of having that van life in California paid for the van life that we got to experience in Europe.
Yeah, pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, you know, like one van life for another. It's pretty worth it, right?
Yeah. So that's pretty much it, guys. And we'll see you next time, whenever that is. And if you have any questions, you know, feel free to contact us, leave us a comment, and we'll, you know, answer you whenever we have time. All right. See you guys later. Bye.
Bye. was a lot smoother.